Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront updates and some unfortunate and sad news in regards to Battlefront 3 and also what we could have had in Battlefront 2. As many of you probably know, a Battlefront 3 is very unlikely and has been very unlikely for a long period of time for multiple reasons, such as the fact that a lot of the Battlefront developers left DICE and the fact that EA and DICE seem to be focusing on Battlefield 2042 and then another Battlefield title after that. But we got kind of the final nail in the coffin on this topic when Tom Henderson, a known insider, although take it all with a grain of salt because we don't know exactly what his source is, but that being said, he definitely does have some insider information, and he basically says the following: that Battlefront 3 was a pitched title from DICE, but ultimately the title was shot down by EA due to licensing costs. It got turned down because it takes 20% more sales to make the same money, said one past developer. And he then said, although it currently seems that DICE is not working on Battlefront 3 and instead another Battlefield, there are currently 2 Star Wars titles in development under EA, but it appears that those titles are more story-driven / single player instead of multiplayer. So, as much as this isn't any big surprise, it is very sad to hear, and I am almost 100% confident that the Battlefront 2 team and the Battlefront and Star Wars part of DICE with Dennis, CJ, Guillaume, and all those developers that we've gotten to know over the years, they probably fought very hard for either continuing Battlefront 2 or making a Battlefront 3, and once they realized that it was gonna get shut down by EA and potentially DICE, we don't know how much the fault is on both of them, they decided to leave DICE. I'm probably oversimplifying things here, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the majority of core developers we saw working on Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 1 have left DICE since they stopped supporting Battlefront 2. Another interesting thing here is the fact that we have 2 story-driven / single-player games to look forward to from EA, and we already know that more than one title was in the works, and I was hoping that the second one was actually going to be more of a multiplayer title. But I guess it's still good because we do know that the one title they put out was Fallen Order, and that game was fantastic. I think most of us can agree on that. And one of these 2 titles is 99% sure to be a Fallen Order sequel. And then I have no idea what studio might be working on that second single-player game, but they've shown that they can do really good Star Wars single-player games, so I think that could probably turn out to be really good. As much as I'm still hoping for some type of multiplayer live service Star Wars game, whether it's something like Overwatch, Battlefront, Destiny, something along those lines, but it seems like that's not gonna happen anytime soon. Continuing, Tom also said, since several key developers that worked on the Battlefront series have since left the DICE studio in the past year, including the likes of Battlefront 2's creative director Dennis Brandval, core gameplay designer Christian Johansson, and lead hero designer Guillaume, it would indicate a Battlefront 3 is very unlikely, and he later also said that it should also be said that development can change at any time and the next title has started development, but if Battlefront 3 gets greenlit and starts development for whatever reason, I will break the news. And he has a few more tweets confirming that he's seen that they're working on a new Battlefield game after Battlefield 2042. Again, no surprise at all, but it's always sad to see that this is what it's come to, and I guess a lot of publishers and developers realize that it is expensive to make Star Wars games if you take into consideration the IP cost, but I also think it would be made up by the fact that you're working with such a huge franchise that you could also get more sales from it. And obviously Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2 still sold really well, considering both of them had a fair share of issues, especially with the launch of Battlefront 2. So all I would really have loved to see is the core original Battlefront 2 team that worked on the post-launch content to make a Battlefront 3 game from scratch, because it's a bit of a shame that obviously they worked on the post-launch of Battlefront 1, and when they got into Battlefront 2 and started working on that, it was probably too late to change the direction of things like the loot boxes and such, so then they had to try and fix that as well during the post-launch. And while we're talking about that OG squad, Dennis was actually out on Twitter the other day giving us some quite interesting tidbits of information about both Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. And he responded saying the following in regards to the development: "It was wonderful and heartbreaking. It's taken me quite a while to get over the frustration, but now I look back upon my entire stay with fondness and wish everyone nothing but the best. I had some kick-ass ideas for Battlefront 3 though. So yeah, he was probably one of the people who fought the hardest for Battlefront 3. At least, if I know Dennis correctly, he always fought very hard for his ideas and for the community. I wish we at some point will see those ideas become reality, although I think that's very, very unlikely. And also when he was asked if he would come back and work on a Battlefront, he said it would be hard to say no to Star Wars, but a large majority of those who I worked with there and who set the foundation for both franchises have moved on. Battlefront is Lucasfilm property though, so closed doors and open windows, etc. So I guess basically if they asked him, he would probably come back, and it wouldn't surprise me if many of the other developers would also come back. At least, obviously, it's not just as simple as accepting a job and moving to a new location, but I think under the right circumstances, a lot of them would probably like to come back. But whether or not that's happening, I don't think so. Not anytime soon. Not within 5 years or something like that. If Star Wars is still thriving and maybe even doing better than now in 5 years, then maybe someone will look into a new Battlefront. But as of right now, no, that's probably not happening. And I also highly doubt that any other studio or publisher would take up the Battlefront name anytime soon. They will probably focus on their own projects like Ubisoft and potentially Quantic Dream. And if that wasn't sad enough, he also said the following: there may or may not have been prototypes of Mustafar, Ventress and Ahsoka for Clone Wars drop following Scarif, showing that they really fought into the end. They hoped and hoped that they would continue to work on Battlefront 2, but unfortunately that was all shut down and they had to work on Battlefield 2042. It makes me really sad, and I'm sure those prototypes were in very early stages, but the fact that they hoped to give us, the community, those planets and characters, but we never got them and might never get them, it does make me very sad. And he did also follow up with that afterwards, saying, realizing this might have made people feel bad, so I'm really sorry. Dev teams have all kinds of dreams and plans all the time, hoping that the business side of games will work out, but always aware it might not. We were fortunate to continue the support for as long as we did. So I understand where he's coming from here, because I do know that in almost all game projects there are always prototypes for stuff that never becomes reality. It doesn't make it any less sad, but it's like he said, I'm grateful that we did get all the post-launch content we did and they didn't just shut it down after launch, but I'm also really sad that we didn't get the full potential and how much we could have gotten if they would have just had free reign and continue as much as they wanted to and they had plans for. But you know, like you said, business side of games always has to work out, and I know Battlefront 2 probably didn't make a lot of money outside of the actual sales and the celebration edition, so financially it didn't make any sense to support the game. In the end, I don't think we're gonna have much more to talk about Battlefront 2 or Battlefront 3 anytime soon, because we've already kind of had the confirmation it's not happening, so the focus now should be on other Star Wars games and what we could potentially see out of those. And from EA, I guess it's probably Fallen Order 2 and then some other mysterious single-player game that I honestly haven't heard anything about in regards to what studio could potentially be working on it. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this news and which new Star Wars game you are most excited for. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.